everybody, welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm making a roasted pheasant with red cabbage and celeriac mash. And I'm starting off with brining the pheasant. I just cleaned it and I'm checking for feathers and bullets because this is a wild pheasant and not one that has been bred. And then I'm using 1/4 cup, which is like 60 grams, give or take, of salt, normal table salt, and 4 cups, which is a liter of water. And I'm whisking until the salt is completely dissolved in the water. And then I'm pouring it over the pheasant and, having it sit in the fridge for at least 4 hours. Depending on how big your pheasant is, you can go up to 8 hours. With the one that I used, I went for 4.5 hours only because this is a very small dude in there. So I'm just adding the salt water. And this makes the meat really, really tender before you even cook it. It breaks some of the fibers. So with the covered pheasant, after 4.5 hours, I took it out of the fridge and then out of the water and patting it dry. Meanwhile, I'm having my oven preheated to 200 degrees Celsius. And once you have that bird out of the brine, it can rest on a cutting board for like 15 or 20 minutes. So you got plenty of time to prepare other stuff. And I'm again checking for bullets because I don't want to lose a tooth when I bite on one of those. So I just want to make sure that in those little tiny holes, there's no bullets left. Unfortunately, the skin of my pheasant is ripped. It's way better to have a non-ripped skin, but then again, this is a wild bird, and when they take out the bullets out of the pheasant, of course, the skin might get screwed up. So it's okay. I'm patting down the pheasant, removing the final pieces of feather that are on the bird, and then I'm just letting it rest on the cutting board. I'm just putting that aside for now, and then I'm taking care of the glaze. So I'm adding 60 grams of liquid honey and the juice of 1 lemon. But before I juice the lemon, I peel it because I'm going to use that inside of the bird while it roasts. It gives a lovely flavor. I'm rolling the lemon to get more juice out of it once I'm going to juice it into the honey. It really helps. It also helps to have the fruit at room temperature. These are all things that give you more juice out of one tiny lemon. Also, you should make sure that you have an organic lemon that has no pesticides or waxed skin, because you don't want to have that in your bird or in your food. Once that is peeled, I'm just going to leave the peel to one side. I just need it when I'm stuffing the bird. But I'm adding the juice of the lemon to the honey, just squeezing real hard, and there's a lot of juice coming out of that lovely fruit. I'm using my hand to catch those little stones from the lemon. You could also use a juicer, but I didn't want to make any more mess than I already did. And it works fine with a hand. So once I have all the pits and everything moved away, I'm just skinning some thyme. So I'm just taking the leaves out of the stem, and I need about a tablespoon. And again, after so many weeks that my grocery store didn't have any fresh thyme, finally I got some, and I love this way more than dried ingredients. So I was very happy to be able to use fresh herbs on this bird. I'm setting a couple of sprigs aside that I'm going to use to fill the bird, but first I'm whisking up the glaze. Now on this roasting tray, I don't have a rack in any of my roasting trays. That's why I'm using this made up thing here, which is a cooling rack on top of a normal roasting tray. And I'm just taking the bird and I'm going to stuff it with a couple of sprigs of thyme, the ones that I didn't use for the glaze, and all of the lemon peels. Just putting all of that into the cavity of the pheasant, and then I'm going to put it breast side down onto the roasting tray, and then I'm putting it into the oven for 15 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius, and I'm using the medium part of my oven. Before I put the bird in the oven, however, I'm adding a tiny bit of cayenne pepper. Just gives a lovely hum to the meat once the dish is done. While the bird is in the oven, I'm peeling the celeriac and cutting it into pieces and to have it cooked. I'm planning to have a mash or a puree, and I'm taking away 50 grams because I'm going to need it for another recipe later, to be exact, the day after. And the rest is about 200 grams of celeriac, which is enough to make a mash for 2 people, while you also have the whole bird and red cabbage. So I'm just dicing the celeriac into medium-sized bits, and with a bit of water I'm going to let it cook for about 35 minutes on the stove, and it will be very soft and I can mash it later on. In another pot, I'm adding 1 glass of red cabbage, which is about 450 grams, give or take. I'm also adding a handful of raisins and a small apple. This is not a sour one, but a sweet apple, which really enhances the taste of the cabbage. I'm cutting it into bite-sized pieces as well, and then I'm going to put it on the stove and let it warm through completely. So I'm bringing it to a boil for maybe like 1.5 minutes, and then I'm putting it on the lowest heat possible to just let it simmer. And the celeriac, I'm going to have that be on full whack until it's boiling, and then I'm adding it to medium heat. Meanwhile, once the 15 minutes are done, I'm having the bird sit on the roast for another 20 minutes, but I'm having it at 150 degrees only. So once the first 15 minutes are done, reduce the heat to 150 degrees, have it sit for another 20 minutes, and then turn the bird breast up, which I'm doing right about now. So once you have the birdie turned, you can start glazing. Just adding 1/3 of the glaze to the whole upper part of the bird. Then I'm putting it into the oven for another 10 minutes, and then I'm going to repeat the same procedure 2 more times, so 3 in total, and that is 30 minutes. After that, the bird comes out of the oven and you can let it rest for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. With that small fella here, I just let it rest for 5 minutes. And then I'm starting to carve it and have everything plated up. For the last 10 minutes of the bird here, meanwhile, I'm adding the celeriac without the water, some cream, salt and pepper, and some nutmeg to food processor, and I'm making a mash. And then everything is ready to plate it up. And you can also already see the bird looks lovely, and for 2 people, everybody gets a leg and everybody gets one part of the pheasant breast with quite a bit of celeriac mash and some red cabbage. And this is a lovely, lovely winter food. It's very, very yummy, and it's like a comfort food, but more on the luxurious part of the spectrum, just because you don't usually have pheasant every day. So I hope you enjoyed watching along and try this recipe. It's really, really great, and let me know if you liked it. I'm going to see you next week with a new recipe on crEATe. Have fun and like, share, subscribe. Thanks!